Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So I just got called out to a horse farm. A friend of mine recommended me for a job doing some electrical work. So I spoke to the guy on the phone. One of these piece of cake jobs, right? There's already an RV outlet there. He wants to put a bigger RV outlet because he got a bigger RV. Specifically, they need the extra juice for air conditioners. Right now there's a 30 amp outlet and they want to go up to a 50 amp outlet. So as he's describing the job to me over the phone, I'm thinking to myself, piece of cake. Take the front of the box off, right? Slam a 50 amp breaker in there, go with the GFI version of 50 amp breaker, and just pull a new line, right? Some heavier wire. He says it's got to go about 20 feet. So I go over there to look at the job. It turns out that it's got to go 80 feet, and it's going through a horse barn where horses like to chew on the wire, and you could kind of see that. It was apparent that the horses like to chew on the wire, so you got to kind of avoid the horses. I was still considering doing the job until I opened the panel box. The panel box was stuffed beyond stuffed, and the cover they had on it, I don't think was the right cover. And they had it loose because the cover wasn't long enough to cover all the breakers in the box. So they kind of had it on the end of some screws, and the cover was kind of shaking on the front of the box because it was pivoting on the lower breakers. Because, you know, once again, the panel, I just don't think it was the right one for the box. It was apparent looking at the box that there was some mouse activity, as in they were building nests in it. So I'm like looking at this thing, and I said to the guy, you know, I really don't want to insult you or upset you or anything like that, but I don't think I could take this job. And he said, well, why? Why not? I said, well, you don't own this farm, so I can't talk to you as the owner. I could just talk to you as the person who rents it. And I gotta tell you, that power panel is a problem waiting to happen. So if I do any more than look at it, if I touch it, the last person who touched it owns the problem. Like if something happens to this barn, I'm sure the owner's gonna look at you and say, what did you have done here? Oh, I had the electricity upgraded from 30 to 50 amps, looked at the nice new wire, and they're going to be, oh, Harvey was the last character in this box. And from there, I live in New York, so you know the lawyers start getting involved. I don't know how many of these jobs you guys go on if you do any independent contractor work, but it seems like most of the jobs I go on these days, there's like some real problems everywhere. The guy who wired up his basement so that neutral was 110, and you know, he basically swapped the two leads on all the breakers, so he had those three-prong things with the extra wire sticking out of it, or the two-prong things with the extra wire sticking out of it, so that things wouldn't short out when you plugged them in if you plugged in a normal three-prong. You know, there was that house. There was the house that needed 220 for a well. So they basically took two different 110 circuits and ran a wire from each one of them to get, you know, a leg from each side to get the 220. So that if you turned off either breaker, you would still have 110 there. And the breakers weren't labeled. One was labeled utility room lights, which was one of their 110s, and the other 110 was coming from a well 110. So I just see all this really wild stuff out there when I get asked to do any of these jobs. For the folks out there who do this for a living, I mean, what do you do with that? If you put your hands in a panel, in a power box, in the breaker box, and you walk away, leaving troubles behind, especially if you're working on the breaker box for not the person who owns the breaker box, but for the person who's renting the breaker box. It just strikes me as if you're really hanging out there. My comment to him was, you know, why don't you save yourself some money for now, and use the 30 amp. You're not using the air conditioning. Just beware, you know, watch how much power you're using, and you know, run your camper on the 30. But to do it right, you should put in the 50. You should get yourself GFI protected. You should make sure you get the wire in such that the horses don't be chewing on it. You know, you got kind of a mess here, and I don't want to add to it, and I don't think I could subtract from it. So I think I'm gonna have to step away from this one. Anyway, I thought you guys would like to hear what else goes on in the life of Harvey. I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.